resellers. You have landed on episode 186 of eBay the Right Way. Today's date is October 9th, 2024. My guest today is Jeremy in Minnesota. I do have one announcement today, and this comes from some emails and messages I've received lately. Some of you have reached out wanting to know if I ever do consulting. And I do not like to call it that because it sounds so formal. But basically, we can do a Zoom call or a regular phone call if you prefer to talk about whatever you need help with. And I actually did phone and Skype coaching and consulting before Zoom came along on a regular basis from 2009 to 2019, so an entire decade, but discontinued the service because of time constraints when I started my online school and started writing my BOLO books. Some of you listeners out there were my clients back in the day. So yeah, Skype, that was a long time ago. I have decided now is the perfect time to bring back one-on-one help with a real live human being. I don't know about you, but I personally am sick of all those AI and annoying pop-up question customer service boxes on websites that are never helpful because it's just based on keywords and it's not a real person thinking through your situation and trying to help you. I never use them because you get all these crazy answers that are completely irrelevant. So also sometimes reaching out to eBay can be a dead end. Either the phone rep is just reading a script and doesn't know how to solve your problem, or the eBay Facebook page, it isn't optimal. You just don't get the answers you need sometimes. So I think it's time to circle back to human beings talking to each other and solving problems together. And I really like doing that for the eBay community. So what do I have to offer you? Advice about eBay selling based on over 20 years in the business. As you know, I interact with the eBay platform and other sellers every single day, and I have since 2003. So I'm plugged into the eBay community, and I have come at the eBay business from all kinds of different angles in my eBay career. I also have over 600 lessons in my school, and I created every single one of them myself. I did not outsource any of that work. It all came out of my head. And I learned many new things along the way. And also there are my 4 BOLO books with the 5th one planned for 2025. And of course, my podcasts, where I learn so much from my guests. And you all know I am a dedicated record keeper, researcher, and problem solver. I have amassed a wealth of knowledge about eBay selling and can share that with you one-on-one. So I guess that's the good thing about getting older. Your experience and knowledge grows. So I'll make this very simple. If you need any help with any aspect of your eBay business, I am your girl. We can do a store critique, look at your store and see if there's anything you could do better or things that you're not doing that could help you appear higher in search or be better than the competition. We can look at fast tracking a new business. Or if you've been away from eBay and you're coming back and you want to know what's changed, what's different, so you don't have to figure all of that out for yourself. We can discuss your goals or your struggles. Sometimes you just need another reseller to talk to that understands the business. You can bounce ideas off me. You can pick my brain. We can do Zoom or regular phone, and I will provide a recording of our session that you can keep forever. It is optimal to have the session on Zoom because we can share our screens and collaborate if needed. And I can record the session on Zoom and it will include what we're looking at on the screen. But if you don't want to be on camera, you don't have to. You can just do the audio on Zoom and look at the screen. I know some people are not comfortable being on camera, so I totally get that. Or we can just do it on the regular phone and you'll get an audio recording of the conversation. So you do get a recording no matter how we have our session, and that is completely up to you. So those are the facts. If a personal consulting session sounds like something you'd be interested in, just drop me an email at suzanne@suzanneawells.com, or you can message me on Facebook and we can set up a 30-minute session at a time that works for you. So this is just another way I can be here for you, a real person, a human being, an experienced seller helping you with your business. Okay, that being said, let's get into the conversation with Jeremy.
Hello, listeners, and welcome back. I have an eager volunteer this week. Jeremy reached out and said, "Hey, I'd love to come on the podcast." And 2 days later, we're recording it. So welcome, Jeremy, and tell us where you're located.
Yeah, thanks, Suzanne. I'm in Rochester, Minnesota.
Okay. The home of the Mayo Clinic?
The home of the Mayo Clinic.
Excellent. Yes. Yes. Okay, good. And I have to commend you on your background. When we record on Zoom, we can see each other, and his real background is better than my fake background. So I see like a vintage clock and some vintage lamps and all kinds of cool stuff back there.
Yeah, and check this out. Let me see.
Oh, he's gone to retrieve something to show me.
So this is new. Let's see if I can do this really cool. Let's see if we can get it. We getting it?
Oh, your black light.
Yeah.
Okay, to check out your Vaseline glass or uranium glass, whatever people call it. Yeah, great.
That's a new acquisition. Yeah.
Good. Okay. Well, Jeremy is very enthusiastic and has a lot to say. So let's start off with what brought you to eBay and what year that was.
Yeah, when I call in for support, they say I've been on for 12 years. So, and I don't know what originally brought me to Goodwill, or excuse me, to eBay. But I think I've really been active in selling for about 3 years, 2.5, something like that. And it really started with reading a book. It was called The Last Bookseller. Let's see if I got that right. Yeah, The Last Bookseller, A Life in the Rare Book Trade. So it's about a dude in 1982 who walks into a used bookstore in St. Paul, Minnesota, and 2 hours later he owns a store. And it's kind of about his journey and 20 or 30 years in the used book business. And I'm a big reader and lover of books, and found it really interesting. And so started thinking, I could sell books. And I was, learning about first editions and signed copies and all these things. And I knew that Goodwill had books. And so it kind of started from there. And I really, my primary thing I started selling was books, and mostly from Goodwill. So first editions, signed copies, Pulitzer Prize winning stuff, just kind of, for some reason, have had kind of a good eye for just walking and scanning shelves and just pulling the right book out, and kind of went from there. And quickly learned that my two best sellers were one of two things. It was either God or the devil, and meaning so you have two things that sell really well: either Stephen King
Uh-huh.
on one side, probably my favorite author to sell, huge following, huge demand for first editions, and then also Bibles. And so I would go to Goodwill on, a couple, 3 times a week, and I would always walk out with books, 2, 3 books, every time I went. They were $2 hardcover books. Sometimes you got them on their percent off day, a little cheaper, and sell them for 20, 30, 40, $120, kind of depending what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And, after, I don't know, maybe 6 months of doing that, I kind of expanded into other areas. I started buying leather jackets from Goodwill, men's leather jackets to be specific, certainly not women's. I learned very quickly that's a whole nother thing. And I tried women's things and quickly learned that that wasn't for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I still do a fair amount of leather jackets. I have one listed right now for $850, and looking forward to that sale. So yeah, leather jackets, LL Bean puffer jackets, big parkas, things like that. So I started doing those. Those sold really well. Started doing stainless steel cookware. That was really good. All things that I was finding at Goodwill. And yeah, and then some little niche things, brass candlesticks I always really liked selling, could find there once in a while. Yeah, so that's kind of how it started. And so kind of got to 100 listings right around there, and that's where things were for a while, until kind of everything changed about 3, 4, 6 months ago.
Okay, well, let's go into the everything changed part of this.
Yeah. So I was content selling items and having fun doing it, and making money for quite a while. And then I started going to auctions. And when I say I started going to auctions, I mean live auctions. And I would really encourage listeners to, I hear on your podcast quite often people lamenting about Goodwill, and I couldn't agree more. I used to go in there 2 years ago and come out with a lot of good things. And when I say good things, items that I would probably, that I bought for $3 to $5, maybe $10, and be selling for 15, 20, 25, like that type of dynamic. And I haven't bought a book at Goodwill in 6 months. They scan 5,000 pieces of media a week here.
Really?
And from what I understand, anything worth more than $10, they sell online. So we're getting the crap of the crap, if that's what to say. And I mean, we're really getting the leftovers, and it's bad. So and that goes with a lot of their goods in the store. So I used to go to Goodwill, at lunchtime, after work, 3 times a week, and now I'm happy not going at all. So about 6 months ago, and really maybe even 3 to 4 months ago, really started looking for other places to source, and started going to live auctions. There's probably within, I don't know, 50 miles or so of where I live, there's 3 or 4 different auction companies. Especially rural ones are especially good. And these live auctions have, people's full estates that they're auctioning off, or massive amounts of collectibles, or tools, or whatever it might be on that day. And it's fantastic. The prices that you can get on live auctions is fantastic. Way better, in my opinion, than online auctions. And I do online auctions too. There's a number of them in my area. I've bought some really good things through online auctions. But the live auctions, one, they're fun. The people there are pretty interesting. But I fill my car every single time I go.
Really?
Sure, absolutely. 3-seat SUV, see all the seats down, filled every single time I go, and it's good stuff. So if I figure, if I go to an auction and I spend 3 hours there, and I get home and I spend 4 hours listing and get everything listed, or the vast majority of it listed, I've put 7 or 8 hours in. And that for sure should be a $500 to $1,000 day, for sure. So, that's $100 an hour, and that's what my time's worth.
Okay. How many items do you have in your store?
I don't have a store.
Or listed?
Yeah. So I have about 150 listings right now, and I'd say over the past 6 months, I'm kind of right around 130 to 175. I do have a lot of, because of some auctions and a storage unit that I bought, which we can talk about. I do have a lot of items. I have 3 months of stuff to list right now.
Okay, so you've got kind of a backlog.
I do, but it's good stuff, and I don't mind having a backlog if it's good stuff. So I would really, really encourage listeners to think about getting away from Goodwill and looking for other avenues for sourcing material. And for me, just the massive game changer has been going to live auctions and doing online auctions too. I've sold a lot of $100 profit items from things I've bought from online auctions, but you can fill the problem I have with online auctions, especially if they're not right next to you. You might have bids in on 20 or 30 items, but then last minute bids happen and all this stuff, and you end up only winning one. So if that online auction is a half-hour drive or an hour drive away to where you need to pick up, you're driving an hour to go get one thing. And so that's not a good algorithm for me.
Right.
So,
and I'm working with that too, over the past 6 months, figuring out the online auctions and having things shipped to me.
Okay.
Because
that's a good idea.
You do have to factor in your time.
For sure.
So there's one that I use that's 80 miles away, and it's just not worth my time to go pick it up.
For sure.
Especially if it's one item. So what I'm trying to do is focus on smalls or lightweight items. And so I have this whole list of things I search for to find, okay, this company has this thing. And then I go through all of the items on that particular auction to do what you're saying to make it worth your time. And so, okay, I really want to win this thing. So let me find some more stuff they can put in that box to, make the shipping cheaper per item.
For sure.
So there's just not a whole lot of live auctions near where I am to go to. I think there's one that's maybe 30 minutes away. I've been wanting to check that one out, but you do have to make it worth your time if you're either having it shipped to you or you're going to pick it up. Because that's exactly what's happening to me is I'll have 10 or 15 things I'm watching on one auction, and then I go in when they end, and I'm that person that bids at the last minute.
Sure.
And then you may only win 2 of them.
Right. Right.
It's always more coming, but it's frustrating because you're trying to stretch your dollar on the shipping cost.
Right. And with live auctions, I can control how much I can control how much I come home with.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I've never not come home with a full car. Because it's prices are typically so good, and that's not to say that I don't get outbid on a lot of items that I'm just not willing to pay premium price for because I'm cheap. I'm ultra cheap.
Uh-huh.
And but you can stock up. And I wasn't aware of these online auctions these live auctions 6 months ago, but really just whether it's Googling, your city and, live in-person auction or looking for any towns around you with an auctioneer, local auctioneer, whatever town it might be, auctioneer, and then go to their specific website and look at their calendar and find live auctions. And I think auctionzip.com has a listing of live auctions also, but a lot of the ones I go to are not on AuctionZip. They don't advertise. They're just
Yeah, a lot of them don't do like the auction sites where they're putting it online as well as having their in person.
Yeah.
I've noticed there's a lot of them that are left out that don't do that. They don't have the time, they don't have the employees, they don't want to pay the fees, whatever it might be.
So
they don't want to ship the stuff.
They have their own private website.
Yes.
And once you find that and look at their calendar, you can find when their live auctions are. So yeah.
Good advice.
Yeah. And so, I guess I challenge listeners, and I had this conversation with myself a while back. I talk to myself a lot. It's sometimes the only, good conversation I can find.
The only rational person you can find is yourself.
Well, a lot of people would argue with that, but it's, I think you need to have a conversation with yourself about what you want to be selling. And, when you woke up this morning, did you get really excited about selling a $12 item? Is that what got you out of bed this morning? I hear on your podcast on occasion, when somebody talking about their bread and butter items and it being their, $10 sales and their $12 sales or $15 sales. And I guess I would encourage you to really think about that, because, I don't want bread and butter. I want sushi grade tuna. I want something a whole lot better than bread and butter. And, and I think that comes with the ability to obviously source a lot better items. So, if you're spending an hour at Goodwill, like I used to do all the time, and walk out with one item that you bought for $3 and are going to sell for $15, I think you really need to ask yourself, is that what you want to be doing? Or how can you spend your time better to source more and better items? Because that's
well,
where.
And I think the mentality is, it's a habit. You have this thing. Oh, I don't want to donate that. I don't want to throw that away. I could probably get $15 for that. And it's a mentality and it's a habit that we just feel like, because I'm guilty of it. Oh, I could get $20 for that on eBay.
Yep.
And it would be easy, and maybe it'll be fast, maybe it won't be fast. But one thing I do when I come back with a load of items is I prioritize them. I start listing with the most expensive item first in that batch, and then work my way down. Because and this happened last week. I listed I think it was called Henderson Gold Core wetsuit. Now, I found this at Goodwill on Senior Day. I do like to go to Goodwill to buy stuff for me, like clothing, and because I'm so cheap. But I saw this. It was in the wrong place. Half of it was on the floor because it was a very long item. And I'm like, I've sold these before. I know this is like a $300 wetsuit. And brought it home, cleaned it up, listed it. It sold in 2 days for full price of 125, shipped to Norway.
Nice.
And that to me is like the perfect scenario
Perfect.
of, but that was the thing I bought that day that would sell for the most. And so I listed it first. It did not go to the bottom of the pile. So I think that has something to do with it too. And I do have a little bit of a backlog of smalls and lower priced items to where, like, oh, if I wanted to list these, if I don't have anything else to list, I'll do this. But I always start with the most expensive items and work my way down because they could sell right away. And, you made your money back really fast.
Right. I recently, I think last week, grabbed a big tub, and started putting things in it, so I probably delisted at probably 12 to 15 items, and threw them in this tub. And these are all items that were under $20. I don't want to be in that market anymore. And I don't want to list items that are under $20. I don't want to store items that are under $20. And so I have this tub with anything, like when I grab something out of my pile and I'm researching it, and it's going to be a $15 to $20 item. It goes in the tub because I don't want to touch it again. I don't want to find a box for it. I don't want to ship it. I don't want to tape the box shut. I don't want to put a label on it. I don't want, I think it's from that book. So that original book I read regarding the book trade, there's a portion of the book that says every book you buy costs you money, in one way or another, whether it's the amount of time or money you spend handling that item, storing that item, shipping that item, etc. There's no such thing as a free book. It costs you money. So I've tried to remember that and really think about what my time is worth, and that's obviously a function of your ability to source and what you can do to source. And I was there for a long time, but I'm really trying to change the way I think about things. And I can either sell $100 items or I can sell $15 items, and I know which one I'd rather sell.
Right.
So I'm going to go find those things and I'm going to sell those.
So do you have a process? You have this backlog of items. Do you have a process for choosing what you're going to list that day?
Whatever tub I grab. So there's, I have probably 5 storage racks, in my garage that are filled with boxes and tubs, either from auctions or a storage unit that I recently bought, which was pretty fantastic and helped a lot.
So it's whatever you get to first.
I grab a tub and it's like, oh, it's okay. It's vintage toys today, and it's whatever box or tub I grab, and let's get these 20 items listed today.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it just you working on your business?
Yep, it is. Yep.
You're just a one-man show.
Yeah. So the storage unit that I bought, there was a Facebook ad that said that the family. So it sounded like there was a collector, a guy who did flea markets and all kinds of antiquing and collecting, had 8 storage units, and he had passed, and the family was going to auction off these these storage units. So it wasn't a case of the storage facility, back rent, they weren't paying. It wasn't that case. It was a case of the family bringing in an auctioneer and going to auction off these storage units. So I was free that evening. So after work, I went to the storage facility and I didn't know if there was going to be 200 people there bidding on these 8 storage units. I kind of expected a lot, but there was maybe 20, 25 people, serious bidders. And so they opened up the first storage unit and they allowed you to walk through. You could walk into the storage unit, you could look around, you weren't supposed to touch anything or open any boxes, but you could, whatever you could see, you could see. So the very first storage unit, a whole bunch of vintage, like watch and clock pieces, repair tools, tons of tools for repairing jewelry and clocks and watches, piles of that, but also some artwork and a lot of toys, random toys, vintage toys in package and so forth. You can see a lot of Star Trek stuff. But what I focused on was there was 5 or 6 tubs, and some of the tubs were closed, but a couple of them were open, and they were all labeled model cars. And what I mean by that was these. So
Right.
like Revel and AMT vintage models, and a lot of them new in the plastic. So there was 5 or 6 boxes, tubs of these, and you could see, and a couple of them were open, and you could see the model cars and what they were. And I know from past experience from other auctions and bidding on these that, these sell for at least $20 a piece. So my 4th grade math tells me, there's at least 25 of them here. 20 times 25 is 500, right? So we start bidding, and it goes to, I'm bidding every increment, and we get to 200 and we get to 250, and I'm still going at 300, and it stops, and I get the unit for $300. So you have about 3 days to clean out the unit. And that night I filled my car. So I did bid on other units, kind of just a little bit. I didn't go very high. I didn't win any other units. In retrospect, I really, really, really wish I had purchased another unit. Suzanne, this storage unit is mind-blowing. It is fantastic. So I thought there was maybe, I conservatively estimated there being 25 models. Well, there's 60. And, they sell fantastic, anywhere from $15 to $50. There are so many vintage toys, so many tubs of vintage toys in here, mostly from the 80s. So I recently sold out of their 1987 Hasbro Battle Beasts. Never heard of them before. So they're these little action figures called Battle Beasts, and I sold a big lot of them for $240 out of there.
Excellent.
Forces. No, that's something different. So tons of vintage toys, tons of watch repair stuff. I have 2 auctions going right now with some vintage watch repair tools, well over $100 each, and so it's really good stuff. So I brought that truck. I brought a carload home that evening, and I'm thinking, how many? So I took vacation the following day because I knew it was going to be a day's worth of work to get everything out of there. And I was thinking, how many trips is it going to, it was in town, but it was kind of on the other side of town. And I figured, man, it's going to take me at least 5 trips to get everything out of there. Why don't I rent a truck? So next morning I went to I went to Home Depot, and I rented a Penske truck and a 16 or 22 foot truck. And I filled it. I filled it. So Yeah, I mean, not to the roof, but single layer, double layer. I filled it, everything here and unloaded by noon and got the car returned, took a quick load to Goodwill of junk that I didn't want to deal with. And it's been fantastic. And, it's utilizing Facebook Marketplace to find, those good and interesting things. And there was a really interesting looking garage sale listed on Marketplace last weekend, and it had these things I'd never heard of them before, called Forces of Valor. Forces of Valor, and there were pictures of army vehicles and tanks from World War II and other wars, all new in the box, army tanks. And you could see that he had, these were all $40 and these were $20. And I started looking them up on eBay, and they sell for a lot. And so I went and had a nice conversation with the guy, and he had about 20 of these things out in his garage, and I kind of put a pile together and was talking to him about them. And he said, I have more in the basement. And I said, cool. And so he started bringing more out, and I put a big pile together, and I said, well, what would you sell me all these for? And so I bought those for 200. And then we went down in the basement and I bought more. Mm-hmm. And so I think I bought a total of about 10 units, different sizes, different things, for a total of 250. That was last weekend. And here we are on Friday, 6 days later. And I've sold $400 worth already out of there.
Nice.
I think I've sold 7 of the 10. And so I have about 300 more to go. It's going to be a nice $500 stock garage sale. And, so they invited me into their house. I was looking at all the things in the basement. And while I'm walking out, I asked, do you happen to have any green glass? It was the right kind of house. And so I said, do you have any green glass? And he said, well, why don't you come on into the kitchen? So went in the kitchen, opened up the cabinet, and the wife said, these used to be my mom's. Is this what you're interested in? And so it was a cabinet full of uranium glass.
Oh, really?
And so I took out my black light and showed him what it was. And we talked about that and what I usually buy that for. And so I took it all home with me.
Okay.
So I don't think I'm going to sell that. I think I'm going to keep that for myself. It's the one thing that I actually like and am starting to collect. So that was neat. The guy gave me his name and phone number, and I think I'm going to go back and buy a whole lot more.
Very good. So you have a repeat customer. Good for you.
Yeah. So Forces of Valor. Never heard of it before. It's fun stuff.
What item have you sold for the most in your eBay history?
Yeah, so it happened a couple of weeks ago, month ago, something like that. So I had gone to Savers, which I still like a lot. I'm finding good things at Savers on a pretty regular basis. And so I had been to Savers and I had bought a set of 8 dinner plates. They're called Booth's Real Old Willow from England. Mm-hmm. Bluish pattern, very ornate from England, and they sell pretty well. So I had bought these 8 dinner plates and did an auction starting at $99, and they sold for $202. And so that was a nice sale. I messaged the person who bought them and said, I think I can possibly get some more of these coffee cups and saucers, etc. Would you be interested in anything else? And she said, sure. And so, because when I had been to Savers, there was more there. I didn't buy it all. So I went back to Savers and was looking for more of this Booth's Real Old Willow. And I did find some more. I found 6 berry or fruit bowls, not large cereal bowls, but the smaller bowls. And I did grab those. And I was doing some other shopping and wasn't really finding anything great. But on the way out, there's a glass cabinet where they keep their jewelry and stuff like that. And on the top of the cabinet were two cases. And I opened up the first case and it was a clarinet. And I pushed that aside and I opened up the second case and it was a trumpet. I thought, huh, that's interesting. And I took it out and the bell on the trumpet, well, it wasn't a trumpet, but I thought it was a trumpet. The bell was really ornately engraved, and it said "Super Recording." And then on the lip of the bell in silver, it was engraved with F.E. Olds and Son, Chicago, Illinois. So I grabbed my phone and went to eBay and looked up F.E. Olds and Son trumpet. And there's a lot of solds, and they sell for, $200, $300, $400, $500. Like, cool. That's a nice price, and they sell pretty regularly. And they had a $60 price tag on it, and I had my 20% off coupon. So I thought, yeah, I'll buy this for $48, and it looks like $200-$300, maybe $400, who knows. So I got home and I did a little more looking. And it had a serial number on it. I was looking at this one particular comp on eBay, and I went to a website and looked up the serial number, and this particular trumpet was a 1948, and it's the same year as this other one that sold on eBay, 1948, and that was a super recording. It turns out that this is like there's really high end. This particular super recording model is highly sought after. It's what, I don't know, professional trumpet players like. It has this really nice sound. And so the comp was 20, over $2,000, 2,000 something. So that sounded good. So I was thinking I had a pretty good item here. And so I did really good photos of it, tried to show everything, listed it as a 1948 F.E. Olds and Son super recording trumpet. And I got a message that night from someone. Really nice instrument, looks really great. It's not a trumpet, it's a cornet. Hey, thanks for telling me that.
Okay, good.
And so I changed my listing to cornet, and the guy said, cornets sell for not quite as much as trumpets, but I said, do I have it? I mean, I started it off as a $1,000 first bid, and I said, is that a crazy number, or is that? He said, no, I think that's a good starting place. So I left it there, and so it ended up selling for $1,706.
Congratulations! Good.
So that's a nice $48 find out of Savers, and the same guy bought it who had bought the trumpet, the same edition trumpet a couple months earlier.
Okay.
Yeah. So just going back to Savers to look for more dishes, and found some more dishes, but also found this on the counter.
So that was behind like the glass.
It was sitting on top of the glass counter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So they had pulled aside as a special item.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was fun. And I've found some really good stuff off of Marketplace lately. I think that, so there was an ad on Sunday night that said just listed, and it had pictures of inside of a house and all kinds of things boxed, and all kinds of electronics and household items, etc. And it said everything free, and tomorrow, and it looked like they had an estate sale, and these were the remnants, but the remnants looked really, really good. And so I took vacation and went there the next morning. I was 20 minutes late getting there, which was a mistake. When they started, I think they started at 10:20 or at 10, and I got there at 10:20, and there was probably 20 cars there. But I went right to the electronics, and I got a couple of great vintage CD players. I got tons of reel-to-reel tapes. But there was also a really old vintage Texas Instruments home computer with all the games and all the manuals and additional periphery items that go with it. And I grabbed all of that and just started a huge pile, and I filled my car. It was great. So that I listed that Texas Instruments computer with all of its additional pieces and parts, and I listed it at auction for $200. Or I listed it for $250. And within about a day, someone messaged me and said, "Hey, in your package, you have this one little item. It's called it's a 32K expansion unit. Would you sell that to me for $65?" And I said, "Well, let me think about it. I'd really like to keep it as one unit, but let me think about it." So 3 days later, he messages me again and says, "What do you think?" And I said, "I'd really like to keep it all together." I said, "I have it listed for 200. Why don't you just buy the whole package for 200?" And he came back and said, I'll pay $100 for that one item." So who am I to argue? So I ended the auction. I pulled that one piece out. Like, it's literally, 4 inches by 4 inches. It's this one little thing. And so I pulled the one item out, sold that to him for 100. And I'm going to relist the whole package again for 200, which I think it's certainly worth, and it'll sell for. So it'll sell for between 150 and 250, I think. So that was cool. I usually.
Okay, so you mentioned taking vacation from your real job.
Yeah.
What is that?
What is that? That's a good question.
What is your regular job?
Regular job. So I work for I'm not employed by the largest employer in Rochester. I'm one of the few people who aren't. I work for a Fortune 500, very, very large IT company.
Okay.
And I used to be a software engineer there, and now I manage a very large computer lab. For argument's sake, that's an easy way to put it. So a lab full of racks and racks and racks of computer stuff.
Okay.
Devices and storage, and I set up and manage this lab.
Okay. Do you have any plans to leave that and do eBay full time?
No.
Yeah, you probably have great benefits.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Good benefits and vacation and everything else. So yeah. I'll be there as long as they keep me.
Well, good for you for fitting in eBay on the side and being able to juggle both of those.
Yeah.
And you're young. What year were you born?
I was born in 71. I'm 53.
Okay. Well, I mean, you're not retirement age. So, well, I mean, I guess it depends on who you ask, but you're not, like 30 years tenure and all that stuff, or
I've been there 26 years.
Well, okay, you're getting close then. So you probably have some reasons to keep hanging out there.
Well, I have 3 kids, and so when I'm with my kids, I'm with my kids, and that's what I do. And when I'm not with my kids, I have some free time, and eBay is a fun thing to do.
What do your kids think about all your eBay stuff?
Oh boy.
Oh, Dad, you get too much junk in here.
Yeah, they humor me. I try to tell them stories about this item or that item. A couple of them pretend to be interested. One doesn't pretend to be interested. 2 pretend pretty well. My middle daughter was really interested in the uranium glass last weekend when I was showing her, and spent a lot of time with the black light and making it glow, and so they at least a couple of them pretend to be interested in the stories.
Do they have any interest in doing this on their own?
Yeah, I've worked on the oldest one as far as that goes, and I think it would be a really neat thing for her to do, because she does a lot of babysitting and is interested in getting a job very soon. But no. That's
And yeah, that's okay.
it doesn't appeal to her nature. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's, a lot of adults are like, yeah, that's a lot of looking. In fact, my whole family is like, oh, that thing where you go look for stuff. And, it's not a guaranteed outcome. And it's all about what you know and how much you have in your experience to draw on and all of that. But, that's okay. Some kids, my teenagers, when they were teenagers, my daughter totally got it, but my son was not interested.
Yeah.
And that's fine. Well, actually, he did virtual stuff. I've told this story before where he went on like RuneScape and created accounts and would build up all the treasures and stuff. And then he would sell those accounts. He was like 12. He would sell those accounts to 20 somethings so they didn't have to start from scratch. So he sold like virtual things. But yeah, I mean, it is a lot of work on the front end, and there's no guarantees that that thing you bought is going to sell or
Yeah.
how long it's going to take.
For sure.
Yeah.
I have one other story regarding some items I bought at a live auction. It's kind of one of the first live auctions I went to, and it was they had at this auction. So I think the person had worked at McDonald's for a lot of years, like in the 80s and 90s, and they had wagons full of McDonald's memorabilia.
Okay.
They had tons and tons of Happy Meal toys in the plastic, never opened. Just all kinds of McDonald's memorabilia, from the uniforms to the shirts to new in the plastic, to tons of Happy Meal toys, but crazy things like the menu, 1980 menus. Like, can you remember McDonald's with the menu being on wood slats and
Absolutely.
like thick letters? Well, I bought the whole menu, a whole breakfast menu. So like what it consisted of was 8 boards with menu items and prices. So your egg McMuffin for 79 cents or
Yeah.
49 cents, coffee for 25 cents, and I can't remember, or hotcakes for 29 cents. And I sold that for way over, I think $200. I sold a ton of the Happy Meal stuff in lots, and tons of McDonald's collectibles and McDonald's Christmas tree ornaments and McDonald's watches and tons of stuff. And the interesting thing is, a vast majority of it went to Asia, international sales. Yeah.
That sounds like a treasure trove.
China and
I have
Japan.
a friend that was on my gymnastics team back in the early 80s, and her dad owned 4 McDonald's.
Oh, wow.
And now she and her brother went into it, and last count, they own 22. And it's probably more by now, but there's no telling what she has. It was because she was one of the younger ones. We would always go to her dad's McDonald's after practice or after a meet and be treated to McDonald's. And she always got the Happy Meal. She was like 12, and she always got the Happy Meal. And I wonder if she saved any of that stuff. But yeah, there's no telling what she has squirreled away somewhere. And her just 3 other siblings, and they had no interest in going into the business, but she and her older brother did. So yeah, that was back in the day when the franchising was really hot, and they were coming up with all kinds of marketing stuff, and just the old-fashioned way of doing it. Yeah. So you hit on a treasure trove there.
Yeah, and it was one of the first live auctions I'd gone to, and what I was seeing on my phone was good. It looked like some of this sold, but I wasn't that sure about it. And I bought a fair amount. I wish I'd bought it all. I, I mean, that McDonald's stuff was so good. I wish I'd bought it all.
Yeah. Well, let's put some perspective here, because I know the listeners are like, "Oh, everything he touches turns to gold. I want to be like him," which I want to be like you. You've got to have a few fails in there. Like, "Oh, I wish I hadn't bought that."
Yeah, the only stuff I buy that I wish I didn't buy are things that turn into too much work. Littles that and I have bought a fair amount of vintage Christmas stuff at auctions, and it sells, but I need to arrange 20 pieces on my kitchen table, photograph it, put it in a box, and then I ship it, and one of the balls breaks, and so I'm refunding five of the $20 I sold. Or I love selling the Shiny Bright. Is that
Yes.
yeah? So I bought a little bit of Shiny Bright at some of the auctions, and vintage Christmas stuff sells really, really well. But I have found that the amount of time it takes to organize it and to list it and clean it is not necessarily uh, where I want to be. So,
Well, and that stuff is so fragile.
yep.
Even the best packer shipper, sometimes things just break because they're old and they're fragile.
Yeah.
And, they've been around for 50, 60 years. And so, um, that's just the nature of it. And like you said, like stuff I don't want to work with. Now I've been trying to get into jewelry and have several like gallon Ziploc bags of jewelry I've been going through. And I tell you what, at night, my hands are killing me. Just, I bought these things. They look like giant oven mitts, but they're full of that buckwheat stuff. And you heat them up in the microwave, and then you put your hands in them for soothing like arthritis and stuff. But yeah, all that teeny tiny little stuff. And you're working with it all day with your hands if you're not used to it. And I was like, I can't do this day after day in a row. I'm going to take, do this like once a week. But yeah, if you hate working with it, doesn't matter how much of it you have, you're not going to want to do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. I, you know, I guess, and I'm learning, continually learning, and continuing to refine how I do things. But I want to maximize my time and profit, of course. And I would just really encourage people to, I used to have, I don't know, one or two $100 sales a month, was maybe typical, a year ago or 6 months ago. And now I'm I'm probably having $100 sale, a few a week, and that's because of how I'm sourcing things and what I'm buying. But you can't keep doing the same thing, right, and expect different results. You got to do something different. And for me, it was going to live auctions, online auctions, marketplace, and finding those treasure troves. And when you see something good, like the Forces of Valor that I bought, if your research is telling you this is good, if you're in for a penny, you may as well be in for a pound. Instead of buying one or two pieces, buy it all. It if you're if it has to sit someplace on a rack or in your garage or in storage for you to get to it, that's okay. If it's a bunch of $100 items, that's okay. That's a lot better than storing $10 items.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So,
okay. You have just been a wealth of information, and I think the listeners are going to like hearing, Goodwill doesn't work for everybody. It has become less and less profitable. And, I started this back in 2003, and that was my go-to for a long time. And it's
Yep.
very different now.
It is. It is. And you can still go in there and buy things for $3 or $5 or $7 and sell them for 15, 7 or 17 or $20. There's still a lot of those in there. But that's tough. And I'm just not finding those besides men's leather coats, which at certain times of the year they have a good supply of. But even those, I used to buy those for 12 or 15 or $20. Now they have them priced at 40, 45, $50.
60. Yeah. Yeah. And I think the Goodwill specifically, there's a double whammy there because there are more resellers now. So you've got more people in there picking, and Goodwill is evaluating what's coming in and putting that online.
Yeah.
So I think success is going to be greater at the thrift stores that don't put their stuff online. The little church ones, the charity ones, the Humane Society ones, where the people do an intake, they're not pulling the really expensive stuff aside, or they just don't know enough. Maybe they're just a volunteer at a church thrift store. And I've seen this, and they're just in there because they want to socialize and they like doing it. And they have no knowledge about what's being sold in the store. And you just have to be the smarter person to be able to recognize those things. But Goodwill as a corporation, I guess they're a corporation.
Sure. For sure.
They have a system in place. They have a system for recognizing those higher dollar items and putting them online. So, like, it is frustrating. It's very frustrating because it's like, oh, this has been my trusted friend for so many years, and now it's just not delivering.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a constant stream of cars going through the donation line. I mean, here it's backed up. There's 8 cars deep waiting to give them their stuff. And the prices just aren't what they were, and it's a tough deal. But
I'm glad you have found another way, because to be able to pivot your business in 6 months, that's really phenomenal.
Yeah, I don't think I've gone in Goodwill in probably 3 weeks. It takes 3 weeks to break a habit, right?
Right. Yeah. 21 days in a row.
Yeah. Yeah. So my Goodwill addiction is almost broken. And, I'm really happy not going there. I don't see it. Well, I had my Goodwill friends that I would wave to and say hi to, and, all the employees knew me and would say, "Hey, Jeremy, how you doing today?" And super friendly and but, I'll find new friends. It's okay. I'm trying to.
Well, and maybe when you get the senior discount in a few years, you'll revisit that, because that's the only day I go to Goodwill, because I'm going to get everything cheaper.
Right. Yep.
Well, they do have a day like Wednesdays where they put the oldest color on $1. And if you can get there on Wednesday, sometimes you can get some good stuff. But that senior discount's a game changer. So if you are doing thrift stores that offer that, hey, 25% is, you add that up over a year, that's significant.
Yeah, for sure.
So
I think everyone just needs to and sourcing is the hardest part of this whole thing, right? It's anybody can list these items and sell them. And I mean, I don't think it's a tough thing to do to put together a good listing and put it out there and collect your money. The tough part is the search and the find and sourcing these items. That's always the struggle, right? So do some thinking and find what are the best places in your area, best sources of really good inventory. And if you want volume, lots of volume and good stuff, I just can't encourage you enough to really look for online and live auctions. It's really changed everything for me.
That's great. Well, we're going to end on that note, a positive note. So thank you for sharing your recent journey and, putting some good information out there about doing this, because sometimes we look at those sales on the Facebook group and we think everybody's doing better than we are. And, you just have to try new things constantly in this business, whether it's different types of inventory, where you're getting it. You have to keep changing it up, and what worked a year or 2 years ago may not work now.
Yeah.
You got to keep mining for new ideas. So thanks so much for volunteering to come on and share that. And we'll keep looking for your sales on the group.
Yeah, Suzanne, I really value your podcast, and it's helped me a lot. I really have enjoyed listening to the other folks on the podcast, and I try to take away something from each of the people you have on, and it's really helped define what I do.
Great. Well, thanks again. And are you working your regular job today, or are you off today?
I'm on lunch right now and heading into the office.
Oh, great. Okay. Well, I won't keep you any longer. Thanks so much and have a great day.
Thanks, Suzanne.
Bye.
Now on to today's trivia question. Jeremy mentioned uranium glass and his black light when we first started the podcast. So exactly what is uranium glass? Here's a few seconds to think about it. Okay, uranium glass is a glass that had uranium added to it before melting to create colors. Typically, the pieces are made with low levels of uranium, meaning anywhere from trace amounts to 2%. Some pieces have been found to be made up of 25% uranium. The uranium was added for the fluorescent effect it created. It soon became incredibly popular and started to be manufactured across Europe and North America. Most uranium glass is decorative, tableware, or household items, with many pieces looking like carnival glass. Uranium glass bowls are particularly popular. The manufacture of uranium glass dropped dramatically in the 1940s as a result of World War II, which saw the availability of uranium fall. Now, some people say that uranium glass is also Vaseline glass, but that is a category under the umbrella of uranium glass. Vaseline glass has a distinctive yellow color, which is why it is often referred to as canary glass. And one more side note about uranium glass, is it safe? If it has uranium in it, that's radioactive, so is it safe to work with? The amounts of uranium used in each piece are typically very low, so it is safe to have in your home so long as it is used and handled correctly. So you can tell if something is uranium glass by shining a black light on it, and it will become fluorescent. And if you ever go to antique malls where they have those booths and there's all these different things in there, sometimes you'll see a setup of uranium glass with a black light under it, showing you that yes, this is uranium glass because it is fluorescent. Probably more than you ever wanted to know about uranium glass, but now you know that. Okay, next week my guest is Mary Jill, who is a longtime eBay seller and an attorney. But don't hold that against her. Yes, people from all walks of life love eBay. Thank you, listeners, for joining us for this episode. And remember, if it isn't listed, it can't sell. Keep plugging along, and I'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.